London. Okay, so Prince Harry is in a real mess. Like the kind of mess where you can practically hear the wheels coming off in real time. Because this whole crusade of his against the British tabloids, the one where he's determined to hold them accountable, it's not just wobbling, it's starting to fold. Here's the core of it. The Duke of Sussex has been pushing hard at Associated Newspapers Limited, the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday crowd, claiming they illegally gathered information on him. He's framed it as a righteous fight, almost like a moral mission. But the problem is, when you walk into a courtroom, your feelings don't count. Evidence does. And right now, the evidence and the optics are not doing him any favors. And then you get the headline moment that makes everyone sit up. Key members of his legal team have resigned. They didn't just shuffle roles. They didn't quietly step back. They flat out jumped ship. That's not a minor inconvenience. That's your star quarterback walking off the field mid-game while the scoreboard is blinking, good luck. People close to the situation are basically saying this wasn't a tidy reorganization. It was a strategic retreat. Translation, they saw where this was going. The turning point seems to be the trial itself. Harry comes in swinging with these sweeping accusations, illegal behavior, conspiracies, the whole 9 yards. And then the defense starts throwing punches right back. Not just legal punches either, personal ones. And once it gets personal, Harry's case starts to look less like a clean fight for justice and more like a messy vendetta. Because he's not just accusing a faceless corporation, he's going after two specific royal journalists, Rebecca English from the Daily Mail and Katie Nicholl, spelled Nicholl, suggesting criminal behavior. Criminal. For digging up dirt. For operating in what he's framing as a coordinated campaign against him and his circle. But Associated Newspapers doesn't accept the villain role he's assigned them. They come out swinging with a completely different picture. Harry isn't an innocent lamb being stalked by shadowy press tactics. They're implying he participated in the whole circus, that he played the game when it suited him, that he benefited from it. And that changes everything, because if you're claiming you were persecuted, it's awkward when the defense can show you were also engaging. Their sharpest angle is the Katie Nicholl situation. She used to be diary editor at the Mail on Sunday, and she's been a familiar face on TV. Harry wants her framed as part of this dirty machine. The defense response? She wasn't some sneaky snoop. According to them, she was invited to a private party back in 2011 at Kensington Roof Gardens, invited by Harry himself, and apparently they stayed in contact after that, running in similar social circles. That is not the vibe of a criminal conspiracy. That's the vibe of, you knew her. And then comes the line that lands like a slap. The defense says her reaction to Harry's accusations was blunt. No, Harry, you invited me to come and party with you. Ouch! That doesn't just sting, it punctures the whole pure victim narrative he's trying to sell. Suddenly, it's not evil journalist targets innocent prince. It's man targets someone he socialized with, and now it looks personal. At minimum, it suggests a complicated relationship, not some clean-cut case of criminal harassment. The Rebecca English piece follows a similar pattern. Harry's lead lawyer, David Sherborne, tried to showcase an email from 2010 where English was supposedly trying to get flight details for Harry's then-girlfriend, Chelsea Davy, ChelsyDavy, from a private jet company. Sherborne's implication is that this shows illegal methods, but the defense knocks it down, saying the email doesn't prove anything illegal. And they lean hard on English's long career as a legitimate journalist, plus the professional access she would have had while Harry was a working royal. In other words, you can't just point at journalist asks question and call it crime. Put it all together and the impact is brutal. It humanizes these journalists. It makes them look like professionals defending their reputations. And it makes Harry look like he's blurring the line between standard media behavior and actual criminal activity. Like he's exaggerating, like he's on a witch hunt. And you can see the toll in court. He looks stressed. He looks older. The irony is thick, too. The man who spent years complaining about press intrusion is now sitting in a courtroom with the entire world watching his every move while he tries to destroy the careers of two journalists. If you wanted privacy, this is a strange strategy. Now, the legal team resignations, that's the real alarm bell. Because lawyers don't casually walk away from a big case like this unless something is deeply wrong. One analyst put it plainly, when solicitors quit, it's often because the client's instructions are unsustainable or because the evidence has fallen apart. They're not abandoning the law, they're abandoning the client's story. And if that's true here, that's a nightmare. For Harry, this was supposed to be a cornerstone. Not just a lawsuit, but a statement. This case was meant to support the entire Harry and Meghan crusade against the UK media. They've framed it like a moral battle, good versus evil. But if it collapses, it's more than a loss in court. It's a symbolic blow that hits credibility, image, and the whole "we're fighting for justice" brand. And yes, there's money too. If he loses, the legal bills could be enormous. But the reputational cost might be worse, because losing here doesn't just mean case dismissed. It risks cementing a public perception of him as relentlessly combative, someone who can't distinguish between legitimate criticism and actual malice, thin-skinned, unable to take heat, always at war. Meanwhile, the reporters he's trying to paint as villains are coming out looking surprisingly sympathetic. They're not faceless monsters. They're established professionals defending their names. Katie Nicholl, who just beat cancer. Rebecca English, who's covered the royals for years. They're fighting back, essentially saying Harry's narrative is BS, rewriting history to suit himself. And that's where the trial shifts. It's not only about what may or may not have happened a decade ago. It becomes a referendum on Harry's judgment, his relationship with the truth, whether this is about principle or about settling scores. The image of him in that courtroom has been stark, miserable, diminished, like a little kid swallowed by a suit that doesn't fit. This was supposed to be his big moment, his chance to finally get revenge on the tabloids. Instead, it's starting to look like a public meltdown, broadcast in slow motion. And then there's the question that hangs in the air the whole time. Where's Meghan? She's an ocean away in Montecito. Radio silence. No public show of support. No hand-holding as he walks into court. Nothing. For a couple that built a brand on the us against the world narrative, her absence is deafening. It says things without saying anything. He moved his family across the world to protect them. And now he's standing alone, facing the music. Sources describe the atmosphere around him as tense, despondent. The resignations weren't just tactical. They were a vote of no confidence, a message that his case is a loser. And that leaves him exposed, legally, emotionally, strategically. Because the misery you see isn't only from tough questions, it's from watching his identity, the righteous victimhood, the moral certainty, get tugged apart in front of everyone. The testimony has been brutal for that reason. It attacks the idea that he was unilaterally persecuted. The stories about him inviting Katie Nicholl to parties, about shared social contact, paint something much more complicated. It implies he was sometimes an active participant in the media ecosystem and benefited from it when it worked for him. Having your past reinterpreted like that, publicly, is disorienting. He's not just fighting a newspaper. He's fighting a version of his own history, and he's losing. This whole saga highlights a major contradiction in his post-royal life. He and Meghan built an empire on their personal story. Documentaries, books, podcasts, confession as currency. But when the most consequential legal chapter of that story is being written, he's alone. Meghan's absence reads like strategic retreat, distancing, risk management, like she's decided this is Harry's battle to fight, and maybe to lose. And you can see it in him. Posture, distant gaze, the lack of defiant energy. He looks caught between two worlds, the one he was born into, which he says rejected him, and the one he built, which doesn't seem to be showing up for him now. That California dream looks far away when you're sitting in a wood-paneled courtroom in London. Ultimately, Harry's misery is a symptom of a bigger strategic failure. He tried to transplant the dynamics of public royal feuding, where you can issue statements, lean on friendly coverage, and steer perception into a court of law. But a courtroom doesn't care about narratives. It cares about evidence, cross-examination, and cold, hard facts. And right now, that's exactly what's crushing him. Meghan, the architect of their media strategy, isn't there because there's no media strategy left to execute. There's just the case, and it's sliding downhill. The judge, the press gallery, the empty chair where she could be sitting, it all converges into a kind of pressure you can't PR your way out of. Harry wanted to be seen as a warrior for justice, but what the room is showing is a stranded soldier. Allies gone. Support missing. Fortress of Solitude revealed to be just that. Solitary. And here's what it really means. Forget the royal drama and legal jargon for a second. This is a masterclass in how not to handle a PR crisis, and honestly, how not to be a public figure in the 21st century. Harry's playing this like it's still the 90s, like he can cry invasion of privacy and everyone automatically rushes to defend the poor little prince. But people are savior now. They're not as easily steered, and they definitely don't like being lectured by someone who's made millions airing his dirty laundry on Netflix. The irony is dripping off the walls. He's suing tabloids for invading his privacy while simultaneously selling intimate details of his life to the highest bidder. It's like, dude, you can't have it both ways. You can't condemn the press while cashing checks off the same attention. That contradiction makes him look less like a principled fighter and more like someone who wants control, not change. And Meghan's absence only sharpens the optics. They're supposed to be a power couple, a united front, but when it gets ugly, she's nowhere. It doesn't scream ride or die, it screams calculation. The truth is, Harry's lost the narrative. He's lost public sympathy. He's painted himself into a corner and now he's lashing out at journalists, at the system, at anyone who doesn't echo his version of events. And it's not a good look. It makes him seem bitter, entitled, and wildly out of touch. And when your legal team starts bailing, it's not just a legal problem. It's a PR disaster. It tells the public even the professionals you hired don't believe this is going somewhere good. It suggests he's so stubborn, so unreasonable, that even the people being paid to stand beside him can't keep doing it. Look, nobody needs to pretend tabloids are saints. They're often ruthless. They can be invasive. But Harry's approach is backfiring spectacularly. He's not winning hearts and minds. He's not changing the system. He's just making himself look like a fool, loudly, publicly, and expensively. And the worst part? It all feels unnecessary. He could have ignored the tabloids. He could have focused on charity work. He could have built a calmer life. But instead, he chose war, constant war, and now he's paying the price. It's a cautionary tale. Fame and fortune don't buy peace, and sometimes the smartest move is walking away. But Harry can't let go. He's obsessed with being proven right, even if proving it costs him everything. And honestly, at this point, it's hard to feel sorry for him. He made his bed, and now he has to lie in it. Even if that bed is a lonely, wood-paneled courtroom in London with the whole world watching him unravel. Because this doesn't look like a heroic stand anymore. It looks like an epic fail, a mess of his own making, and it doesn't look like he's climbing out anytime soon.